Jaskier had possibly had too much to drink. He would definitely blame the alcohol for the way he marched, not staggered, up to the man sitting in the corner of the inn and confronted him after he had finished his latest set with another impassioned performance of Her Sweet Kiss that had him closer to tears. Then he would have liked. The man was sitting in the corner, back against the wall, swords beside him, and cat eyes watching the room warily as he drank. His dark hair seemed to be free of the usual monster guts that a certain witcher Jaskier was pretending he had never met, had seemed to roll around in almost daily. But there was still no reason for witches to be popping up all over the bloody place when all the bard wanted was to pretend he hadn't spent the last however many years trailing after one like a lovesick puppy. "Are you people multiplying or something?" Jaskier said, leaning heavily on the table in front of the witcher. "I thought you were meant to be a dying species or some rubbish. Rather detracts from the mystery if one keeps stumbling into you at every bloody inn in the continent." The man looked at him in disbelief. "Who the hell have you been running into? I doubt any of my brothers would put up with a drunk like you." He snarled at the bard. Jaskier grinned at the idea that he would be put off by a little lip from a witcher. They were so predictable with the intimidating faces and the grumpy voices. They reminded him of cute little hedgehogs with their bristly personalities. "Oh ho, nice to see the attitude comes with the scary face." Jaskier snarked back, flopping into a chair next to him. "Your darling brother Geralt, the one with all the angst and broodiness and annoyingly perfect hair, didn't tell me he had family in the area. So, sweetheart, what's your name? Got any stories for a poor, starving bard?" He fluttered his eyelashes at the witcher in what he was sure was a charming fashion, mentally cursing himself for falling back into old habits. Witchers were not fun to flirt with, god damn it. And he needed to remember that before he got his heart broken again. It didn't matter if they were all adorable with their big muscles and heartbreaking fear of rejection. Jaskier was going to resist the urge to cuddle all of the witchers close and give them the attention they were so obviously starved for as soon as he sobered up. "So you're the fucking bard he was hanging around with the last few years. Name's Lambert. Have to say, your little song has definitely made that path a damn sight easier. I've only been chased out of 3 towns this season." Jaskier preened at the compliment, patting Lambert's shoulder before he remembered himself and sat up straighter in his chair. "Well, apparently I live to please the witches of this world. No, sorry, What did he say? It's always me shoveling the shit that is your lives." Lambert funked his head down onto the table, scaring some of the other patrons in the bar. Jaskier smiled at them reassuringly. He thought anyway, as they moved further away from the scary-looking witcher, acting like a person with feelings instead of some hulking menace in the corner. Really, you are the issue in his life. He does realize that he can shovel shit just fine all on his own, doesn't he? A pretty little thing like you, there's no way you are adding to his problems unless he's having to chase the local girls away. Lambert looked at Jaskier exasperatedly. How dare this adorable little puppy of a witcher come here and say all these nice things to him? Jaskier had made up his mind. No more witches, but here he was, ready to get sucked back in again. Thank you for the vote of confidence there. But no, I am the cause of all bad things in his life. It would never in a million years be that bloody sorceress with the stupid purple eyes and the freaky magic. Who even has purple eyes? Crazy, dangerous people. That's who. The fuck. Please, tell me you're joking. He's getting his dick wet with a fucking sorceress. Okay, little lark. There is no way any of this is your fault, Lambert said reassuringly, laying a rather large hand over Jaskier's. That big idiot brother of mine is beyond your help if he's fucking a witch. He was always easily led by his dick. I guess we expected too much of him to realize that witches are never a good idea. Guess I'm going to have to adopt the little bard for the rest of the season. Whoa, hang on, Jaskier protested. I don't need adopting. I am perfectly fine on my own. I don't need to be shoveling shit for anyone else. He tried to pull himself together, to be Jaskier the bard, singer of amazing songs and traveler extraordinaire. Instead, He was sure he looked like a sad little kitten begging for a home. Damn all that ale. It's not like it blocked out those words that kept bouncing around in his head anyway. He knew he was too much for people to deal with. There was no point in letting himself get attached to another witcher just to go down the same route all over again. See? That right there is why you're coming with me. Don't worry. I'm not an asshole like Geralt. I bet he didn't even let you ride on that monster he calls a horse, Lambert joked, wincing when he saw Jaskia's sad face. Well, no, but... No buts. You can come with me for the rest of the season. Can't have the bard that gets us all paid drinking himself to death because the White Wolf of Rivia is a huge cock. And while we are on the path, you can write a song about me instead of that asshole. Show the world what a real hero is like. Lambert dropped a few coins on the table, grabbed his swords, and started hauling Jaskia outside with a surprisingly gentle grip on his arm. The bard flailed pathetically, pulling a face at the townspeople, who averted their eyes from the big, scary witcher hauling him away. They were all too happy to enjoy his songs 5 minutes ago, but no one wanted to mess with a witcher. Only if you give me actual details about your hunts. None of that. It was big and had claws, Jaskia. What more do you want from me, shit? He was still pissed about that. How was he meant to write amazing songs about his heroic feats with that kind of information? He didn't even mention that fact. It had bloody wings. Here I am, imagining some random beastie as he holds out details on a god's-damned griffin hunt. How dare he? Big and had claws, for fuck's sake, my brother is complete fucking bastard. Lambert chuckled as he led Jaskia out to his horse. No, no, little lark. If you are going to make me the most heroic witcher in all the lands, I need equally terrifying monsters to defeat. Lambert strapped his swords to his back and swung up into the saddle before offering Jaskia his hand. Jaskia pretending to consider the offer, trying desperately not to let his absolute glee at starting out on a new adventure show on his face. This time would be different. He would make sure he wasn't a pest this time. And when it was time for them to part ways, he would move on to the next great adventure. Why is it whenever I find myself in a pile of shit these days, it's you shoveling it? No. This time he would be smart, he would keep his heart out of it, and he would appreciate all the excitement of the path. There would be no getting overly attached. He was a different man from the one who had stood on the top of that mountain and accepted the words thrown at him without complaint. He would not take the blame for another's choices. Not this time. Jaskia clasped the hand offered to him and was pulled up onto the horse to sit in front of Lambert. The man's arms caged him in, and he relaxed back into the chest behind him, hiding a grin at the instinctive flinch he felt the witcher give at the close contact before he almost melted around the bard's back. I could always write a song about the extremely humble witcher who never brags about his exploits at all. Ha ha. Where's the fun in that? If I have to be a monster, I might as well show the world exactly how monstrous I am. Have to do something to impress the ladies, right? Lambert said, directing the horse away from the inn and off towards the road. Maybe all Jaskia needed was a new adventure to get him out of his slump. At least along the way, he could continue to spread the word of the heroic witches and remove some of the stigma that followed them. Witchers deserved all the nice things in this world, and by Melatel, he would make sure they got them. He started humming a tune to himself before turning his head and asking, "What's the most exciting hunt you've been on yet?" I need something good if I'm going to be singing of the Dark Wolf of Kaer Morhen. Lambert chuckled at the name. How about the time I had to break a curse on a princess? Idiot parents had pissed off a local witch and then acted surprised when she bid back. Fantastic. And if the witch in the song resembles a certain person we won't name, well, then isn't it coincidental if certain people see themselves in evil, nasty, ugly, man-stealing crones? Lambert's laughter was almost a bark in the still air, as if it had been surprised out of him. Jaskia smirked to himself and started thinking of rhymes for dark-haired harlot. Jaskia smiled across the inn at the sight of Lambert slinking into his line of sight and giving him a brief nod as he finished singing, "The Dark Wolf's Princess," to raucous applause. Jaskia ran a quick eye over his witcher. There were a few places where his gambeson seemed to have been torn, but he seemed to be moving all right, so it couldn't be anything too concerning. Nothing that Jaskier couldn't take care of, provided Lambert actually let him help rather than sulking and making a big fuss out of any attention. My apologies, dear friends. My daring witcher companion here wants to get back on the road. Monsters to kill, princesses to save, you know how it is. Jaskier bowed dramatically as Lambert gathered their things, accepted the coins pressed into his hands by smitten women and would-be princesses with a bemused face, and stalked out the door stiffly. Jaskier bit back the quick sting of rejection as Lambert moved silently to the horse. Maybe the witcher was just a bit tired from the hunt. There was no way that Jaskier had annoyed him already, had he? He would just have to cheer his witcher up then. There was no point letting him stew in his bad mood. Is the wicked beast he killed then, O valiant defender of the people? Jaskier asked cheekily, bouncing around Lambert like a small child. He let out an undignified squawk as Lambert started pushing him up onto the horse with no warning, a hard hand shoving at his ass to get him moving faster. The hell is this, Lambert? You haven't even bought me a drink yet. You went off to kill a Kikimor. Why the rush to leave? Did you not kill it or something? No, but we need to get moving. You're riding and I'll run alongside. That way, if a certain alderman with a broken nose comes after us, you have a fresher horse to ride, and I can deal with their bullshit without worrying about your lazy ass being in the way. Lambert grunted, leading the horse quickly out of town and settling into a brisk jog. Jaskier thought he saw a wince on the witch's face out of the corner of his eye as the man settled into his stride, but was distracted by the urgency in his voice. A broken nose. For the love of all things holy, what did you do, Lambert? He said in a voice that reminded him horribly of his mother. Not that he was thinking about her again, no way, no how. Lambert swore under his breath before looking up at the bard's accusing face. He didn't want to pay me properly. Fucker said there was just the one, and then got shitty when I told him the price doubled after I had to kill 4 of the bastards, he muttered sullenly. He looked like a small child being admonished for playing in the mud, not a powerful warrior who had just killed several monsters. The poor darling didn't even know how his expression was breaking the bard's heart. Well, there may be a small song circulating in the back of Jaskier's head about the alderman from Lindenvale with a cock the size of a nail, or something else to show just what happened to those who cheated his witches. I thought we talked about this. We use our words, not our fists. How am I meant to convince the world that you witches deserve fair pay, and all the love us mere mortals can shower on you when you insist on acting like you were raised by? Don't you try and get smart with me. I had that town eating out of my hand, Lambert. Words, not fists. Jaskier laughed, trying to maintain an air of authority and failing. Don't get your frilly knickers in a bunch. I gave him plenty of words as well as a good fist to the nose. Got the money too, so now we just need to get a decent distance before we make camp. Just far enough that the rabble get bored chasing us. Lambert sighed, looking down at his feet as he ran. This isn't the first time I've been run out of town, little lark. I know, darling, but you shouldn't have to put up with that, Jaskier said, resting a hand on the top of Lambert's head for a moment as he ran. Why the devil did all witches have such soft, silky hair? Were monster guts really good as soap? He shuddered at the thought. That's the whole reason for the songs, so you get little extras like you did from the very grateful people today, and then you don't have to go around punching noses in for a few measly coppers. I wasn't expecting that. People usually run the other way after a hunt. They don't hang about like I've seen the village girls doing after your performances. Lambert looked up at him defensively. He could see the man retreating before his eyes, shoulders rounding like he expected someone to hit him, the weariness in his eyes. Dear heart, those girls could be hanging off of you in the same way if you were just… I know, words not fists. Lambert sighed. I was going to say talked to them rather than snarling in a corner like a bear with a sore foot, but I'm glad to see that someone is finally listening to my words of wisdom. The bard teased, pushing Lambert's hair back from his forehead before his hand was batted away. Yeah. How do you know I haven't been getting laid every night on the path before you came along, bard? Have you thought that maybe you were the one ruining my game? Lambert snarled, that angry note in his voice creeping back in. Jaskier sighed. He had thought they were past all of the snapping and the snarling by now, but apparently it took longer than a month and a bit to convince these darling witches that they were worthy of more than a quick fuck at the local brothel and a boot out the door soon after. Darling, no one who panics the same way you do whenever someone touches you in a non-violent manner has been getting the attention they deserve. It seems it is my heroic duty to be the trailblazer who proves that witches need hugs too. I shall continue to sacrifice my time and energy into proving that you are the adorable little puppies who need all of the love and affection. Jaskier flung himself off of the horse at Lambert as he finished his impassioned speech, complete with dramatic sweeping gestures to the imaginary audience around him. The man swore and scrambled to catch him, growling at the bard's theatrics. God damn it, Bard, you're going to get yourself killed with a stunt like that. I should leave you here and let you break your neck the next time you decide to launch yourself off of a moving horse. Lambert hissed, pulling the horse to a stop by the reins and dropping the smaller man to his feet. If life could give me one blessing, it would be to take you off of my hands. Jaskier sunk in on himself. Of course the Witcher wouldn't want to deal with his shit. He was stupid to think that anyone wanted to deal with him when he got like this. He had just wanted to cheer his friend up, but, as usual, he had made a mess of things. Shoveling shit once again. Sorry, I can be less, me, if it's too much. I promise, I can be a silent traveling companion. You would never even know I was here. Just please don't leave me here. Oh, fuck. Fuck. No, you're not a pain in the ass, Jaskier. You know I don't mean it like that. Come on, get back on the horse and you can sing your song about how amazing I am. Then I can tell you about this Kikimor and you can think up some more pretty songs to throw in that asshole bard you keep talking about's face. Lambert said gently, using a large, scarred hand to tilt the bard's face so he was staring into his eyes. He could see the Witcher struggling with his words. It's not like they were taught how to talk about their feelings in little baby Witcher school or anything. Jaskier grinned and hauled himself back into the saddle, pulling his lute from its case and strumming the opening lines of The Dark Wolf's Princess to relax his Witcher. He heard Lambert give a sigh of relief at the change of tone. He knew how much it meant that his Witcher had talked about emotions at all instead of just grunting at him and carrying on. He would let the matter drop for now, and enjoy the fact that Lambert cared enough to try and reassure him. He wouldn't let the past stop him from enjoying this new adventure. Only because you asked nicely. Don't think I've forgotten that you are the reason we aren't sleeping in real beds tonight, Mr. I punch people. When I don't get my way. Jaskier walked back to their campsite to see Lambert guilty tucking the edge of something green into his shirt. The darling Witcher had pushed the hard-leaving Lindenvale and only agreed to stop for the night when Jaskier started complaining that it would be dark soon, and besides that he needed to take a little trip by himself into the woods to answer the call of nature. Lambert had finally conceded that it was highly unlikely for the alderman of the town to follow them for several hours just because of a broken nose, and started to set up camp while Jaskier wandered a short distance into the woods. Lambert, darling. Dear heart, adorable little puppy of a Witcher. Why, in the name of all of the gods, does that look like part of my green doublet? Jaskier asked, glaring at the man in question. Lambert looked like a spooked deer, frozen in surprise at Jaskier's reappearance. That, in and of itself, wasn't a good sign at all. Stupid witches and their inability to let anyone know when they aren't fighting fit and ready. I don't know what you're talking about, Lambert said, trying to replicate the innocent puppy dog eyes the bard had given him earlier that day when he had drunk the last of their ale. Please tell me you haven't ruined it. Jaskier sighed, pulling Lambert's shirt over his head to look at where he had wound a scrap of Jaskier's doublet around his waist. He could see blood leaking through it. Oh, for fuck's sake. Sorry, I ran out of bandages, and you said you hated this doublet anyway, and you know how disgusting my shirts are. It's not like I could use one of them, and... It was like he could see Lambert regressing to the scared little child he had told him about in hushed whispers around a campfire at night. The poor love was terrified that any weakness would just open him up to more abuse. Jaskia's heart bleed for him, but he knew that if he mentioned it, he would get the cold shoulder for the rest of the night. No, no, darling. I'm more annoyed that you didn't say anything like the big stoic idiot you are when we have been riding all day to get away from that bloody village as you bleed out. Jaskia said in a quiet voice as he unwound the tattered doublet from his friend. He could see that the scratches were fairly deep. It was a wonder that Lambert had kept running all afternoon instead of passing out from blood loss. This had to be why the witches wore black. It hid the blood far too well. You really need to take more care of yourself. One of these days, there isn't going to be a dashing bard around to nurse you back to health when you end up infected from one of these little scratches. How in the name of all the gods was Jaskia meant to deal with the drama of witches? One would think they would have a little more self-preservation, but apparently not. It was a wonder any of them had survived without him, and he shuddered to think of the condition of all the witches he had yet to meet. It's fine, Jaskia. Just a little scratch from the Kikimor. Hell, I've had worse scratches from you when you're in a mood, Lambert grumbled while simultaneously melting into Jaskia's touch as he tried to figure out how the hell he was going to patch his witcher back together again. Oh, ha ha. Laugh at the bard for being concerned. You could be dying of all sorts of icky things that monster had on its claws, and I do not scratch. You make me sound like a bloody alley cat. I merely express my thoughts through a more physical medium in times of stress. Jaskia sniffed indignantly. I thought I was coming over here to help a brother in need, not witness him getting molested by some colorful lapwing. His elegant gesture of heroism was somewhat hampered by the weight of Lambert's sword. How the hell did anyone swing these things? And the fact that the voice came from another witcher who came prowling out of the trees to loom over them with a large black horse following. I beg your pardon? I am not molesting this ungrateful brute. I am saving his life as he bleeds out through his own stupidity. And who might you be, Sir Witcher? Jaskia asked, ignoring the way that Lambert tried to take the sword back from him. He was defending his poor darling in his hour of need. Couldn't Lambert let him take care of him for 2 seconds? The new witcher smiled shyly and started tying his horse to the same tree as Lambert's mare, trying to hide his amusement at the bard's theatrics. Lambert finally yanked the sword from Jaskia's hands and pulled the bard back down to sit beside him. Calm down, Jaskia. It's just Eskel. Good to see you, brother. The bard here is just panicking over nothing. It is not nothing, Lambert, you ass. I can see more of your insides than I wanted to, my friend, Jaskia protested while eyeing up the new witcher. Eskel reminded him a lot of the witcher. He pretended not to know, only with darker hair and an intriguing scar that went from his mouth to his ear. The poor lad was clearly self-conscious, tilting his head to keep it in shadow as much as possible. Eskel knelt beside them and gently moved Jaskia out of the way. Let me take a look, bard. So, you're the one who was hanging around with Geralt all the time. Should I expect to see him come waltzing out of the woods next? God damn it, Eskel, be gentle, Lambert whined. And no, the White Wolf of Idiocy is too busy sleeping with sorceresses to give a shit about our new friend here. Left him all alone on a mountain with dragons, reavers, and who knows what else. Next time I see that pillock, I am going to introduce his face to my fist. Repeatedly. Eskel looked from Lambert to Jaskia in shock. Jaskia felt the blood pool in his cheeks as he looked away. It's not like he was completely helpless on that mountain. Nothing touched him. But then again, he did leave that mountain in a flood of tears, so there was no guarantee that he wasn't making enough pathetic noises to scare away beasties that would otherwise go after a poor defenseless human like himself. What? How stupid is he? Look at the state of the little bard. There's no way he can defend himself. The little bard is sitting right here and is fully prepared to make you eat your words. Jaskia snarked sulkily. What was it with witches treating him like he was made of ceramics? He had survived perfectly fine without them. Eskel turned to Jaskier with a rather charming smile on his face. Why did the gods decide that all witches must also be superhumanly attractive as well as strong? No offense, little bard, but our brother is an idiot. You don't take a civilian out onto the path and then abandon them, especially not to chase after some woman, no matter how powerful she is. Yes, well, the past is in the past and all of that. So, is he going to live? Jaskier asked, gesturing at Lambert as he tried to ignore the tears welling up in his eyes. Why were all of the other witches so sweet and loving? He had to go and follow the grumpy one who showed less emotion than a rock. He'll be fine. Give him a few days and he'll be as good as new. Some scars to show off how heroic he is. But I've been hearing lots about the heroics of the Dark Wolf, so I'm sure that'll fit the image. Eskel finished whatever magical witchery business he was doing to fix the gaping holes in Lambert's side, and started wrapping him up with clean bandages from his own pack. Oh, fuck off, Eskel. Lambert grumbled, wincing as Eskel pulled the bandages tighter. Wait till the little lark decides to sing a song about you and see how you like it. You actually get paid more often than not if the village idiots have been singing your praises just before you bring them a monster head. He shot a proud look to Jaskier, leaving the bard with a warm feeling in his chest and a stupid little smile curling around his mouth. You're not kidding. You're not kidding. I walked into a town that was singing that song, the annoying one about tossing a coin or something. Jaskier let out a squawk of indignation at that, and the innkeeper told me I could stay the night for free, didn't even ask me to get rid of a necker or anything. You're welcome for that annoying song. See if I ever write one for you. Jaskier huffed and busied himself digging through their bags for some food for the night. He was sure they had grabbed some. No, wait, that was what he was planning to do before they had to leave Lindenvale as quickly as possible. Eskel looked apologetically at Jaskier through his fringe. Gods be good. What was it with these witches and their adorable little puppy dog faces? He just wanted to run his fingers through the man's hair, possibly trim it so the poor dear could actually see and take care of him like he deserved. Or, I'm sorry, little bard. I've never heard the original, though. I'm sure it's much better when it's not being mangled by some two-copper bard in a backwater inn. Well, I suppose I can forgive you for that. I'm sure even I would hate it if that buffoon Valdo Marx was singing it. I will just have to treat you to a private concert for the two bravest witches in the land tonight. You are camping with us tonight, aren't you, Eskel darling? Jaskier smiled winningly up at the witcher. There was no way he was letting this poor disaster of a man out into the wilderness before he had subjected him to copious amounts of cuddling and positive reinforcement. It was a travesty to have such beautiful men out there thinking they were unlovable. And this one was far too sweet and adorable to be alone. Be alone. I thought I was darling, Lambert protested, trying once more with his puppy dog eyes. Eskel smothered a laugh with his hand, looking at his brother in surprise. That's right. Look what happens when you beautiful, darling witches get a little bit of the affection you deserve. You're next, dear heart. Don't you worry, Jaskier thought to himself smugly. Oh, sweetheart. You are both darling little witches who are going to set up a camp for the night and go rustle up some of those rabbits I'm sure are jumping about in the woods. Then I can perform a little concert for my two dashing heroes, and we can enjoy a peaceful night out under the stars before seeing where the path takes us tomorrow. Agreed? Geralt was an idiot. Eskel muttered under his breath as he looked at the bard's hopeful little face. Too fucking right, Lambert agreed. All right then, you two, camping it is. You wait here and look after our wounded hero. I'll be back with some rabbit in no time. See you soon, darling. Make sure you get enough to feed both of you. I can hear your stomach grumbling from here, Jaskier called after his retreating back as he started moving Lambert into a more comfortable position to wait for his brother. Having two darling witches would certainly make life interesting,